The Garuda Purana. When you hear that name, what comes to mind? For a lot of people, it's images of the afterlife, karma, reincarnation. It's known as Hinduism's guide to what happens after we die. But what if I told you that's only a tiny fraction of the story? Today, we're going to uncover the other, much larger part of this text, a surprisingly practical and, honestly, a profoundly encyclopedic guide to living.
So let's just start with that big question right there. What if a book that we almost exclusively associate with death was secretly a comprehensive guide to living a better, more informed life?
Right. So when you mention the Garuda Purana, this is pretty much what everyone thinks of. It's famous for its super detailed descriptions of the soul's journey, the concepts of heaven and hell, and of course, it's a foundational text for Hindu funerary rites. And this is a really important and deeply ingrained cultural practice. Reading the text is believed to help guide the departed soul, and it gives a kind of framework for grief, offering real comfort and solace to the family when they need it most.
Okay, but this is where it gets really interesting, because everything we've just talked about, the entire popular perception of this text, is really only one part of a much, much larger work. See, the Purana is actually broken into two main sections. The part everyone knows is the Uttarakhanda. That's the one focused on death and the afterlife. But then there's this massive first section, the Purvaconda, which is basically an encyclopedia for living, and it is packed with practical knowledge on science, ethics, you name it.
All right, let's actually dive into this hidden encyclopedia. And we're going to start with something you would probably never expect to find in a so-called Book of the Dead, a detailed manual on gemology.
That's right. Believe it or not, the Purana doesn't just mention gems. It analyzes 14 different precious stones, getting into their different varieties, and most importantly, how to test their quality.
And we're not just talking about a vague mention here. This thing is practically a jeweler's manual. It covers everything from ruby and diamond to pearl and jade, detailing their specific characteristics and even their mythical origins.
I mean, check this out. To test a pearl, the text lays out this incredibly detailed procedure. You start by cleaning it with a mix of lime juice and rice starch. It even describes a friction test for quality and then a whole multi-step polishing process using hot water, wine, and milk. This is just shockingly specific practical knowledge.
And just look at the level of detail. Here, the text is talking about testing a ruby, or padmaraga. It advises on how to compare its weight and luster. It even suggests a scratch test and says that gem experts should be consulted before you buy. I mean, that's basically ancient consumer protection advice.
And this treasure trove of practical knowledge doesn't stop with gems. The Purana's encyclopedia also dives deep into medicine and health.
So, tucked away inside this first section is an entire medical treatise known as the Devonte Samita. It's named after the physician to the gods in Hindu mythology, and it's this comprehensive medical text covering everything from the causes of diseases to their diagnosis and treatment.
And what's incredible is that this focus on well-being wasn't just limited to humans. There's an entire chapter dedicated to veterinary science for horses. It details all these different illnesses and lists 42 different medicinal herbs for their care. It's a remarkably complete guide to equine health.
So we've gone from the individual to animals, but the text goes even bigger. It also provides a detailed blueprint for the health of an entire society, outlining these principles of ethical leadership and just governance.
I absolutely love this analogy it gives for fair taxation. It advises a ruler to collect taxes like a florist gathers flowers. You take just enough, but you don't destroy the plant. You make sure it can keep producing in the future. It's such a powerful, ancient lesson in sustainable economics. These principles are all part of what's called the Niti Shastra, or the science of ethics. The text lays out a king's core duties. You have to rule with dharma, or righteousness, uphold truth and justice, protect the nation, and most importantly, create a government that fosters prosperity for all. But here's what I find most profound. After all of this incredibly practical advice on gems, medicine, and politics, the Purana asserts something else. It says that the highest, most imperative duty of all is to look inward, to introspect, and connect with your own soul. So, when you step back and look at the whole picture, it becomes so clear, right? Labeling the Garuda Purana as just a Book of the Dead means you're missing the vast majority of what the text is actually about.
There's a quote from a research paper that just nails it. It says, the Garuda Purana is a science, enriched with philosophy, farming, medicine, economy, basically every aspect of life for better living. It's a text for life, not just for death. And that's really the big takeaway here, isn't it? The story of the Garuda Purana is such a powerful reminder of how easily we can reduce a complex, rich body of knowledge to a single, simple idea. It leaves us with the question: what other books, ideas, or even people have we defined by just one part of their story? And what might we discover if we just took a second, deeper look?